The Perseus dropped into hangars yesterday and within 6 hours melting posts flooded Spectrum. Not enough HP, can't solo a Polaris. My Redeemer has better shields. But while everyone's rage comparing it to capital ships, there's one vessel that tells the complete story. And it's been collecting dust in hangars since 2018. Spent 2 days neck deep in spviewer.u data, leaked footage, and frankly, the initial reaction was wrong. Dead wrong. Those size 8 Medusa cannons create this immediate brain shortcut. Capital ship killer, Idris Hunter, fleet centerpiece. Except CIG didn't build another Polaris. They built something that shares identical component slots with the Hammerhead. Same power plants, same coolers, same shield generators, same quantum drive. That's not coincidence. If you melted your Perseus in the first 24 hours because it didn't match the fantasy version living in your head for 3 years, this breakdown might sting a bit. But understanding what you actually pledged for changes how you crew it, fly it, and dominate with it. Both ships carry the heavy gunship designation from CIG. Not Corvette, that's the Polaris. Not capital ship, that's Idris and up. Heavy gunship, subcapital class. The distinction matters because it defines engagement parameters, fleet roles, and expected survivability. Think of naval classifications. A destroyer escorts carrier groups and hunts submarines. A patrol boat defends coastlines and intercepts smaller vessels. Both are warships, but you don't send the patrol boat to shell enemy ports. The Perseus and Hammerhead operate in the same weight class with opposite specializations. One mulches fighter swarms, the other executes medium to large targets that can't dodge. The community built expectations around size 8 guns equals capital combat without checking what CIG actually designed. Those Medusa cannons aren't for javelins. They're for Carracks, Constellations, Reclaimers, A2s, ships with massive cross-sections and limited maneuverability. The Perseus punches up one weight class effectively. Expecting it to punch up 3 weight classes is setting yourself up for disappointment that has nothing to do with the ship's actual capabilities. Pull up the component comparison. 2 size 3 power plants on both, 2 size 3 coolers on both, 2 size 3 shield generators on both, 135,600 horsepower with industrial-grade palisades equipped. Same size 2 radar, same size 3 quantum drive. CIG literally copy-pasted the component architecture, but the hull HP diverges significantly. Perseus sits at 389,240 hit points. Hammerhead comes in at 295,600. That's a 93,640 HP advantage, 31.7% more durability before armor implementation. The vital components show similar disparity. Perseus Geo section, likely the engineering deck based on internal layout, has 95,000 horsepower. Hammerhead's nose and body sections each have 80,000 horsepower. Before armor gets implemented, and that's still months away minimum, raw HP determines survivability. A fully shielded Perseus can absorb sustained fire that would cripple a Hammerhead. Tested this during a Xeno-threat phase 3 defense. Took hits from 2 Idris railguns while maneuvering into position. Shields collapsed, hull started taking damage, but the ship stayed operational long enough to eliminate the priority target and disengage. A Hammerhead in that same position? Respawn screen. The glass cannon assumption comes from comparing it to the Polaris's 660,000 horsepower, but compare it to its actual peer, the Hammerhead, and suddenly the Perseus is the tank. Quick reality check. How many times have you encountered an Idris in regular gameplay? Not Xeno-threat scripted events, not staged org battles. Regular Tuesday night session, probably never or maybe once. Now how many times have you run into Constellations, Carracks, Hercules transports, Hammerheads, or Reclaimers? Every single session. That's the Perseus's actual hunting ground. CIG designed it for the game that exists, not the game players imagined during concept hype cycles. The Medusa cannons deserve their own breakdown because the numbers tell a story most people missed. 8,500 damage per shot, 40 rounds per minute, 900 total rounds per gun. That's 1,800 rounds total across both turrets. Total damage potential, 7.65 million hit points. Compare that to the Polaris's size 6 Maris cannons. 3,400 damage per shot, 50 RPM, 3.1 million total damage potential. The Perseus's main battery does 2.47 times the total damage of a Corvette's primary weapons. But velocity and fire rate create the engagement profile. 800 meters per second projectile speed with 40 RPM means you're not tracking Gladius fighters unless they're flying in a straight line. The effective engagement range sits at 3 to 4 kilometers against large targets. Beyond that, projectile travel time makes leading shots nearly impossible against anything maneuvering. Under 2 kilometers, you're inside the optimal range of most turret-based weapons and taking unnecessary damage. Compare this to the Idris's size 7 Conqueror cannons, 12,200 DPS, versus the Medusa's 9,200 DPS. The Idris gun actually outputs more damage per second, which seems backwards until you realize the Medusa has 2.5 times the ammo capacity and significantly longer operational endurance. The Perseus is built for extended engagements, not alpha strikes. Watched a cargo interdiction go sideways last week. Hull C with 2 Vanguard escorts. The initial assumption, can't hit Vanguards with these cannons, were outmatched. Except the Perseus isn't just 2 size 8 guns. 6 PDCs engaged automatically. Pilot-controlled top turret with dual size 3 Gallings, shredded 1 Vanguard while the remote turret operators deleted the Hull C's engines with Medusa shots. 4-person crew, complete mission success, 0 respawns. Picture this. Sitting in the hangar, Perseus freshly delivered, comparing stats to the Polaris on Urkel. Better HP on the Polaris, better maneuverability. Hangar bay, medical facilities. The melting temptation hits hard. 3 years of waiting and the spreadsheet says another ship does it better. Then the org pings for a bunker defense. Need heavy fire support? Multiple Connies inbound. Take the Perseus because it's already spawned. Jump in, quantum to the location, and there's a player Constellation strafing the facility from 4 kilometers out. 1 Medusa salvo, just 4 shots between both turrets, strips the entire port shield facing. 2nd salvo punches through and disables the main thrusters. Pilot ejects before the 3rd trigger pull. Entire engagement, 22 seconds. That's when the design philosophy clicks. This isn't a capital ship hunter. It's a sub-capital apex predator that dominates everything in its weight class and threatens anything 1 class above. The Constellation pilot thought they were safe at 4 kilometers. They weren't. The Vanguard escort thought they could joust. They couldn't. The Perseus creates a 5-kilometer no-fly zone for anything that can't dodge or tank 8,500 damage per hit. Crew efficiency separates good ships from great ships in the current meta. Hammerhead minimum crew, 7 people. 1 pilot who only flies, 6 gunners who only shoot. With engineering implementation, add 2 more for power management and damage control. 9 to 10 people for full operational capacity. Perseus minimum crew, 5 people. Pilot who controls torpedoes and top turret, 2 remote turret operators, 2 manned turret gunners. With engineering, maybe 7 total. But the pilot actually contributes to combat effectiveness beyond just positioning the ship. The tactical math gets interesting. 2 fully crewed Perseus ships require 10 people. 1 Hammerhead plus 1 Polaris requires 16 people minimum. For orgs running operations with 15 to 20 active members, that personnel efficiency means you can field more combat-effective ships simultaneously. And the pilot weapon control matters more than it seems. 20 size 5 torpedoes fired from the pilot seat. Dual size 3 Gallings on the top turret controlled by the pilot. The Hammerhead pilot sits there flying while everyone else fights. The Perseus pilot actively contributes 20 to 30% of the ship's total damage output. Advanced tactical consideration, pair a Perseus running anti-large loadouts with a Hammerhead running anti-fighter screens. The Hammerhead intercepts Gladius and Arrow swarms, while the Perseus eliminates Constellations, Carracks, and Hercules transports. It's the fleet composition CIG designed the ships for, but nobody's actually testing it because everyone's too busy solo comparing ships in isolation. One more thing about those PDCs, 6 of them. The Hammerhead has 0. The Polaris, a full capital ship, has 7. The Perseus has 6. That's not an accident. CIG knew this ship would operate in fighter-heavy environments and needed point defense to survive without requiring a dedicated escort screen. Before engineering makes solo operation impossible, you can actually run this ship with 3 people, and the PDCs cover your defensive gaps. Spectrum's currently split between buff the Perseus and you don't understand balance. Both camps miss the actual issue. CIG's been consistent. Sub-capital ships don't solo capital ships. That's not artificial limitation. That's intentional design hierarchy. The Perseus isn't underpowered for its classification. It's correctly powered. The disappointment comes from 3 years of community speculation, building a ship that was never on CIG's drawing board. There's this thing that keeps happening in every ship release cycle. Concept sale shows impressive stats. Community extrapolates those stats into fantasy scenarios. CIG delivers the ship they actually designed. Community melts down because reality doesn't match imagination. Happened with the Redeemer, happened with the Corsair, happening right now with the Perseus. The Hammerhead's been one of the most effective combat ships in the game since 2018. Having that same platform with capital caliber main guns is genuinely powerful if expectations align with actual design intent. Loadout optimization starts with understanding what you can and cannot change. The Medusa cannons are bespoke, locked in, no alternatives. But those size 3 hardpoints on all 4 turrets? Swap the default ballistic Gallings for energy repeaters. Panthers give you sustained DPS without ammo concerns. Perfect for the pilot-controlled top turret and extended engagements. Minimum viable crew is actually 3 people. Pilot plus 2 remote turret operators. The PDCs and pilot-controlled weapons provide enough coverage to survive most encounters. Optimal crew is 5 with both manned turrets occupied. Anything beyond that is engineering preparation. Tactical engagement range, 3 to 4 kilometers against large targets. You're outside most turret-effective ranges, but well within Medusa optimal performance. Against fighter-heavy opposition, close to 1 to 2 kilometers and let PDCs do the work while you maneuver. Don't try to swat arrows with your main battery. That's not what those guns are for. Fleet composition role. You're the hammer, not the anvil. Let Hammerheads or Hurricanes screen fighters. Your job is removing enemy-heavy assets. Constellations, Carracks, Reclaimers, maybe even catching a Polaris that's not paying attention. Think of yourself as the Ares Ion of the subcapital world. Specialized role, exceptional at that role, mediocre outside that role. Cargo capacity sits at 96 SCU, according to current data. That's enough for ROC mining operations or light cargo runs between combat missions. The Hammerhead has 40 SCU. This ship has actual utility beyond pure combat, which matters for solo players who need their combat ship to generate income between org operations. The Perseus has 31% more whole HP than the Hammerhead, 2.47 times the total damage output of a Polaris's main guns, and requires half the crew of comparable combat vessels. It's not a capital ship hunter. It's a subcapital apex predator that dominates its weight class and threatens anything one class above. Comment section question: what ship comparison actually needs this level of breakdown next? Because apparently the community's been comparing ships based on marketing instead of actual design intent for years. Next breakdown covers why the Paladin's component layout might actually make it the best solo combat ship in 4.4, and why the community's completely sleeping on it while chasing the Perseus hype train. The meta isn't what the brochure promises. It's what actually works when the server's at 100 players, your shields are at 10%, and you've got 3 Hurricanes burning toward your position. Stay dangerous out there.